The siren was still wailing when it happened. The patrol car sat at the red light in the middle of Maple Ridge, with the stranger in the back seat, hands cuffed behind him. The doors were locked. The windows were shut. Sheriff Dale Miller sat up front, both hands on the wheel. Deputy Nora Price watched the mirror. I stood on the sidewalk with half the town and a paper cup of lemonade, because everybody had come out for the end of summer street fair. The stranger turned his head just once. I remember the way the red light washed his face. Calm, not scared. He looked at me like he knew my name. Then the light clicked to green. 3 seconds passed. Deputy Price blinked and checked the mirror again. Her mouth opened like a fish taking air. Sheriff, she has service. Chef, she said. She twisted around, grabbed the back door handle from the inside, yanked and yanked again. Child locks. Sheriff slammed the car to park. He jumped out and rushed to the back. Deputy Price jumped out too. The rest of us crowded closer without meaning to. I did at least. I didn't know yet that I was part of this, even if I didn't want to be. Sheriff opened the back door with his key. The stranger was gone. The cuffs lay on the seat like a silver smile. The vinyl was still warm where a body had been. The windows were unbroken. The door on the other side was still locked. The dash cam blinked its little green light, steady and bored, like nothing special had happened at all. People gasped. Someone dropped a balloon. It popped. The sound skittered down Main Street and vanished too. How did he do that? A boy asked. No one answered. Sheriff looked at me, and I didn't know why until later. Because he had seen the way the stranger looked at me, because of what the stranger left behind. It was a folded napkin on the seat, tucked neat under the handcuffs. On the napkin was a simple drawing of a teacup with, thus steam. Under it, there was one word, written in slow, careful letters, Emma. That's my name. I felt the world tilt just a little, like a shelf in my mind had come loose. Then all the streetlights on Main Street flickered once, like they were trying not to blink, and the town of Maple Ridge realized it had a problem you can't put in a box. A stranger had vanished without a trace, right in front of everyone, from a locked car with 2 police officers 10 inches away, and he had left my name behind. Before I tell you everything that led to this, I need to tell you something else. I'm not special. I'm 19. I pour coffee at the Bluebird Diner. I take evening classes at the community college when I can afford them. I like crosswords and the sound of trains at night. I keep a stack of true crime paperbacks in my room that my mum says I should stop reading because they keep me up. I didn't ask for this. It just showed up with a quiet voice, exact change, and grey eyes that didn't blink enough. Walked into the Bluebird 3 weeks before he vanished. That was the first time I saw him. Tuesday, after the lunch rush. The diner was calm again. The light slid across the counter and turned the sugar shaker into a little lamp. Frankie the cook was scraping the griddle, singing low to the radio. Mrs. Carter was in her usual booth, reading the paper funnies like they were medicine. The man took the corner booth by the old payphone no one uses anymore. He sat straight. Like his back was iron. He wore a clean grey shirt, a jacket with no logo, and a watch with a plain black face. He was handsome in a way that made your brain pause and then move on. Not movie star handsome, just neat, precise, like he had measured the space around him and found it correct. "What can I get you?" I asked. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Tea, please, plain, with lemon. People in Maple Ridge don't order tea much. Coffee, yes. Shakes, sure. Tea was for sore throats and winter." "Coming right up," I said. When I brought it, he was looking at a map, not a glossy map from a store. It was a printout made of many pieces of paper taped together. I saw Main Street, the high school, the train tracks that skirt the edge of town. He used a pencil to mark tiny dots near corners. Drains, alleys, utility boxes, strange little places most of us forget to see. "What's that, sir?" What's this, I asked, because I'm not great at minding my own business. "A puzzle," he said. "For fun? For work?" "What kind of work?" He lifted his eyes to mine, and for a second I felt like I had opened a door I shouldn't. He wasn't angry, he was measuring. The kind that likes exact answers, he said. I'm Evan. It sounded like a name he chose that morning. I told him mine. He nodded at the teapot tattoo on my wrist, the one my grandma hated, and smiled for real this time. Nice drawing, he said. People forget steam is a shape. I didn't know what that meant. I laughed anyway. He thanked me for the tea, paid in cash, and left a tip that was too much for a single mug. That night I told my mum about the quiet man at the Bluebird. She didn't look up from her knitting. Tourist, she said. They're always strange. He's not a tourist, I said. He's something else. Something else is never good, she said. The next day he came back, same booth, same tea. When he finished, he flipped his receipt and made a tiny drawing on the back, an outline of the Bluebird's back alley. He drew the dumpster, the grease barrel, the door with the sticking hinge. He shaded a small square near the drain with soft pencil. Then he folded the paper, left it under his cup, and went. I found it when I cleared the table. The square he shaded was where Frankie likes to smoke when he thinks I can't see him. I stepped out back and looked at that corner. There wasn't anything there, just dirt, oil stains, and a bottle cap smashed flat by a summer's worth of delivery trucks. On day 3, Evan ordered tea again and then asked for a slice of lemon pie with a fork and one extra napkin. He ate slow. He drew slow. He watched the door like it might tell him a secret. When he went to pay, the register hiccuped. It does that sometimes. I tapped it twice, like you do a sleepy fish tank. You're patient, he said. Some people hit things and make them worse. Patience is free, I said. Not always. He left and I tried not to watch him go, and then I went to wipe his booth and found what he had left. The fork, polished, placed just so, balanced across the rim of the teacup and pointing west. People forget that forks point. It felt like a message, but I didn't speak fork. Go, Mashisbasindas, Frankie said from the pass. You're staring at cutlery like it owes you money. Do you ever get the feeling someone is making a plan? I asked. Always. Osads, he said. Usually it's my landlord. Less extreme things filled those days. School supplies at the drugstore, the football team practicing behind the high school, kids on bikes weaving through sprinklers, Sheriff Miller coming in for meatloaf on Thursdays and nodding at everybody like a farmer counting fence posts. On Friday, a local man's truck was found with the door open and the engine running by the train bridge. He had gone to get gas and walked home. He forgot he owned a truck, Maple Ridge stuff. But the little things added up if you looked. The hardware store was missing 3 items in a neat line. Duct tape, a cheap padlock, and a roll of orange flagging tape surveyors use. The owner said it was probably kids. A stop sign on Oak Street had a tiny sticker on its back, the kind you peel off shipping boxes, folded once and wedged under the bolt head like a paper seed. And twice when I walked home, I felt someone cross the street behind me too. Soon after I did, like a shadow you can't step on. Don't stay late, my mum said. Don't chase mystery like it's a puppy. It's usually a snake. I promised I wouldn't. The week before the street fair, Evan came in and didn't bring his map. He brought a single manila envelope and set it on the table like it held a bird. When I poured his tea, he said, Emma, do you ever think about how people vanish? People don't just vanish, I said. That's TV. He looked toward the old payphone by his booth. It hasn't worked since I was little. The cord is stiff as a bone, but the box still hums a little if you put your ear to it. Sometimes they do, he said. Sometimes a person becomes a shape that fits through a space no one else sees. That sounds like a riddle. It is. What's the prize? You don't get hurt, he said softly. I wanted to ask what that meant. I didn't. His eyes were grey, but warmer than I first thought. Like there might be rain in them that was finally going to fall. He paid and left. The envelope stayed on the seat. I picked it up and carried it to the counter. Hey, Frankie said. Customer left your homework. The envelope had my name on it. I didn't open it. Not with customers around and the radio playing and Mrs. Carter asking for more ice. I told myself I was being polite. I told myself I wasn't scared. I tucked it under the register next to the stack of spare straws and the jar of toothpicks with a label that says, "Do not use." Even if you want to. That night, I took the envelope home. I sat on my bed and opened it. Inside was a napkin from our diner, folded in 4. When I shook it out, a small brass key fell onto my quilt, the kind of key you use for a locker or a tiny lockbox. The napkin had a simple drawing again, the payphone. Under it, a note in the same slow hand, "Look underneath." I didn't tell my mum. She would have yelled, and I didn't want to explain the part where I kept talking to a man who felt like a question mark. So in the morning, before my shift, I stopped by the diner. The street was quiet. The air smelled like wet leaves and someone else's bacon. I let myself in with the front key, clicked on the small lights and walked to the old payphone. The phone box felt like a museum piece. I ran my fingers along the underside where the metal meets the wall. Cold, greasy dust. Then, tape. A strip of clear tape with a little flap you could pull. I peeled it back. A plastic card slid down into my hand. It was a gym locker card. The back said, "Maple Ridge Community Pool," in faded blue letters. The front said 213 in thick black marker. I held it like it might sprout teeth. I looked around the empty diner like someone might clap. No one did. At 9, when my shift started, the lunch rush came in like a wave. The pool wouldn't open until noon. I tried not to stare at the door. I tried not to jump each time the bell over the frame jangled. I poured coffee for Sheriff when he came in and didn't ask him anything. I didn't want to be a person with a secret, but there I was, wearing one like a sweater. At 11:50, I told Frankie I had to take my break and went out the back. I jogged the 3 blocks to the community pool. The sky was noon blue, sharp as paper. Kids were lining up with towels. A lifeguard swirled a whistle around her finger. Inside, the locker room smelled like chlorine and shampoo. I walked down the row of blue metal doors until I found 213. The lock was the tiny kind, like a bracelet on a giant. The brass key from the envelope fit. It turned smooth, like it had been waiting. Inside the locker sat a small cardboard box with no writing. I took it out, light as a sandwich. I looked over my shoulder, then opened it. There was a police badge inside, Maple Ridge badge. The shield was dull and the number was scratched, but I knew right away whose it was. Sheriff wears number 01. Deputy Price wears 02. This one was 7. Officer Ben Colton. He had quit the force last winter to help his brother's roofing business. He still came to the diner for pancakes and called me kiddo, even though I told him not to. Under the badge lay a folded note. My fingers felt numb. I unfolded it. "You're looking the wrong way. Under that, the date, today." My heart thumped in my ears so loud I thought someone would tell me to be quiet. I closed the box. I closed the locker. I turned and almost ran straight into someone. It was Sheriff. He didn't look angry. He looked tired. He looked like a piece of his day had broken loose and he couldn't find where to put it back. "Emma," he said, gentle. "We got a call. The attendant said a young woman used a key on 213 and went pale. That you?" My voice sounded like a pencil on glass. "Sheriff, I didn't take anything. I didn't put anything there either." "Who?" Sheriff asked. "The stranger," I said. "The one who drinks tea. He gave me the key, sort of." Sheriff's eyes flicked to my hands. I gave him the box. He opened it and saw the badge. He closed it. He exhaled slow like he was trying not to fog a window. "Let's go to the station," he said. "You can tell me everything." "I have a shift," I said, "because sometimes your mouth says the wrong thing when your life is changing." "I know," he said. "Frankie already called. He said to bring you back in one piece. The station smells like old coffee and old paper and new soap." Deputy Price met us in the hall and tried to smile, but her eyes were full of the same tiredness as Sheriff's. She led us to a little room with 2 chairs and a table that someone had carved initials into. I told them about the tea, the map, the fork, the envelope, the locker. I told them about the napkin with my name left in the back seat after he vanished at the red light. "He looked at you, Deputy Price said. Before, you're sure? Yes. Like he knew you. Like he wanted me to know he knew me, I said. Is that different? It's worse, she said, but kind. It means he wanted a witness that wasn't a op. Sheriff tapped the closed box with Officer Colton's badge. Emma, he said, did Evan, if that is his name, ever say anything about Officer Colton? No, I said, but he talked about vanishing, like it was a trick you could practice. Deputy Price's jaw tightened. We found Officer Colton's truck by the train bridge last night. Keys on the seat. No sign of a struggle, no footprints, nothing missing. His phone last pinged downtown, then died. We figured he went fishing. No, I'm not so sure. The room felt smaller. The air felt like the inside of a balloon. Why me? I asked. Why leave me the key? Because you're careful, Sheriff said. Because you notice things. Because you would open the locker and bring us the box. Because he wanted us to see what he wanted us to see, and nothing else. He's steering us, Deputy Price said, and I hate being steered. Sheriff stood. We're going to pull camera footage from the pool, from the diner, from Main Street. We're going to talk to people who saw him. In the meantime, Emma, you're not to go anywhere alone. You hear me? I nodded. The world felt like a chessboard, and I was a pawn that had just moved 2 squares and now everything could jump over me. We left the station together. Sheriff walked me back to the diner. The bell over the door rang the same way it always does, like a small bird. Frankie lifted his chin from the grill. You okay? He asked. I don't know, I said. You will be, he said, but softly, like maybe he wasn't sure either. The afternoon went by in slow spoons. I poured coffee. I wiped counters. I looked at the payphone too much. I listened to the radio. Storm was building somewhere far away. I could feel it in the way the napkins lifted at the edges. At 4:30, the door chimed. I turned with 2 mugs in my hand and almost dropped them. Evan stood there. Same grey shirt, same car. Lumface. He looked like he had just come in from a walk. My heart kicked. Sheriff had told me not to be alone, and I wasn't. But I still felt like I had stepped onto ice that might crack. Tea? I asked, because the mouth does what it knows. Please, he said. He sat at his booth. My hands shook when I poured the hot water. I set the cup down. He didn't touch it. You found the locker, he said, not a question. Yes, I said. Why did you leave me the key? Because you would look, he said, and because they would believe you. Who are you? What do you want? He tilted his head, like that was a large question to be asking in the middle of a small diner. I want something simple, he said. I want the truth to be in the right hands. Whose hands? I asked. He smiled that almost smile again. We'll see. You vanished, I said, from a locked car. That light was long, he said, like we were discussing the weather. How did you do it? People always ask how, he said. They forget to ask why. Fine, I said, louder than I meant to. What? He leaned forward. His eyes were no longer grey. They were a storm sky. Because when people watch a trick, everyone looks at the hand that moves. No one looks at the hand that stays still. The still hand is where the important thing is. What important thing? He glanced at the payphone. The important thing is always the thing that no one thinks works anymore. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the tea at the wall. I wanted to be 9 again and worry about spelling words and not about badges in boxes and men who slip out of cars like smoke. Instead, I said, tell me where Officer Colton is. He looked at me for a long beat. I expected him to lie. He didn't. I don't know, he said, but I know who does. Who? The bell over the door rang again. Sheriff walked in. He saw Evan. Evan saw him. Time slowed down. You could hear the clock over the coffee pot. Evan stood. He didn't run. He didn't even look nervous. Sheriff took 3 steps and every person in the diner held their breath at once. Sir, Sheriff said, you are under arrest. Evan held out his wrists. He didn't fight. Sheriff cuffed him. Deputy Price must have been outside because a second later she was at the door, eyes steady and on her radio. Customers pressed their backs into booths to make space. Frankie wiped his hands on his apron and whispered, "Don't try anything, Magic Man." Evan looked at me. "Remember what I told you," he said. "Still hands." They led him out. The sky had turned the colour of a bruise. People in the street looked up from their cones and corn dogs. The fair music tripped over itself like it knew it should be quiet now. I grabbed my apron and stepped outside too. I didn't even think. Sheriff guided Evan to the patrol car parked at the curb. He opened the back door. Evan ducked and got in. Deputy Price checked the cuffs. Snug, silver, certain. And now we are back where we started, at the red light, at Main and Birch, with me on the sidewalk. With the town holding its breath, with the siren off, just a steady chirp from some crosswalk signal that didn't know what drama was. With the stranger in the back seat. Green. 3 seconds. Silver smile, empty seat. The crowd gasped like a single mouth. Sheriff's face went blank, the kind of blank that comes after you've run out of words. Deputy Price's hand went to her radio so fast I almost didn't see it move. I heard barking from somewhere way down the block. The streetlights flickered again, 1, 2, and then steadied. Right then, behind me, the old payphone at the diner rang. It had never rung in my life. It screamed through the glass like a fire alarm, sharp and bright and wrong. People turned. I turned. Sheriff turned too. I didn't know I was moving until my hand hit the diner door. I reached the payphone with my heart flagging in my chest. The receiver felt cold, like it had been sitting in snow. A lasog ifted it to my ear. It was quiet for half a second. I could hear the line hum, low and steady, like a sleeping animal. Then I heard his voice. "Emma," Evan said, calm and close, like he was on the other side of the wall. "You're looking the wrong way." "Where are you?" I whispered. "How did you—" "This is the only call you get," he said. "Tell Sheriff to go to the old train depot, Locker C. Now. You have 5 minutes if you want to find what he lost." "What did he lose?" I asked. On the other end of the line, I heard a small click. A timer starting. Metal on metal. In my head, I saw a badge in a box and a number scratched thin. 07, Officer Ben Colton. Lost. I dropped the receiver. It swung and hit the glass and kept ringing in my hand. I ran to the door. "Sheriff," I shouted, but my voice felt far away. "The depot! Locker C! 5 minutes!" He didn't ask how I knew. He just moved. He and Deputy Price ran for the car. The town parted like a curtain. The engine barked, the tires chirped. The car lunged away, and for one heartbeat, I saw something in the back seat. Not a person, not a body. Just a ripple in the air, the way heat dances above a blacktop. Then it was gone too. Frankie's hand touched my shoulder. "Kid," he said, soft, like he didn't want to break me if I had turned to glass. "Breathe." I sucked air. It felt like my lungs were made of paper. The payphone behind me rang one last time and fell silent. The fair music started again down the block, late and wrong. A balloon bobbed up into the sky and kept going. 'Cause balloons don't care about rules. I ran after the patrol car. The old train depot sits at the edge of town like a tooth everyone forgot to pull. The platform is cracked. The locker room is a long, low hallway with doors painted the colour of old pennies. By the time I got there, the patrol car was already parked crooked out front, lights strobing red on brick. I pushed her through the door and into the locker hall. Sheriff and Deputy Price were at the far end. At a locker marked C. It was open. Inside was a small black duffel bag. Deputy Price pulled it into the light. Sheriff unzipped it. Inside, wrapped in a blue towel, lay an old radio, a pair of bolt cutters, and a thin stack of driver's licenses. Different names, different faces, all worn at the edges like pocket stones. Under them, in a clear bag, sat a single train ticket stamped "Yesterday." And underneath that, a photograph. Sheriff lifted it by the corner. It was Officer Colton sitting on a bench, eyes closed, alive or asleep, I couldn't tell. On the back, someone had written 3 words in a slow, careful hand. "You are late." The hall lights flickered. Somewhere a train horn cried. It sounded far away and too close at the same time. Deputy Price's radio crackled. Unit 1, Pfizer, a voice said, thin with static. We have motion at Main and Birch. Be advised. The subject is... The radio cut to a high whine. From the open depot door came the rumble of a train rolling through town, faster than it should on a day like this. Sheriff looked at the ticket in his hand. He looked at the photo. He looked at the bag and the bolt cutters and the licenses like a math problem with too many numbers. Still hands, I whispered, because I didn't know what else to say. Sheriff's head snapped toward me. What? Look at what isn't moving, I said. That's where the trick is. He stared past me down the line of lockers. C was open. A was crooked. B looked stuck. D had a key broken off in the lock. E had a tiny mark above the number. A sticker folded once like a paper seed. Sheriff reached out and pressed it. For a second, nothing happened. Then somewhere inside the wall, a latch clicked. The E door popped open a half-inch like it wanted to breathe. Sheriff pulled it wide. Inside was a phone. The same kind as the one in the diner. Old, heavy. The cord snaked into a hole in the back of the locket, like a root into earth. The handset was off the cradle. Beside it lay a small digital kitchen timer, the kind my mum uses when she bakes. It showed 0012. It ticked 0011 010. Out, Sheriff said. His voice was calm in the way a cliff is calm. Everybody out. Deputy Price grabbed my arm and pulled. We ran. The timer ticked to 0007. 006. The train horn wailed again, and the locker hall filled with that low, deep sound, like a storm coming under your house. We burst into the open air. The sky had finally broken. Rain came down in a hard sheet, fast and loud. Sheriff shoved me behind the patrol car, and we crouched there with the red lights washing over us in waves. Inside the depot, something clanked, like a door slamming in a place without people. The timer hit 0006. There was no boom, no fire, just a pop, sharp as a knuckle. And the lights in the depot went dark. We stood up slow. Rain tapped our faces. My earbuds had stuck to my cheeks. Sheriff and Deputy Price went back inside with their flashlights. I followed because my feet didn't know how to stop. Locker E was open wide now. The old phone was gone. On the metal wall, taped where the phone had been, was a napkin from the Bluebird Diner. A simple drawing in slow, careful lines. A teacup with steam. Under it, in letters I knew too well, Emma. And under my name, one more line written in darker pencil, pressed hard enough to dent the paper. If you want the truth, come alone. The rain hammered the roof. The train roared through town and didn't stop. I felt the world tilt again, only more. Like the shelf in my mind had slipped its brackets and smashed on the floor. Franklin's words floated up from some calmer hour. Don't chase mystery like it's a puppy. Too late. Sheriff's flashlight found my face. He saw the napkin. He saw my name. He shook his head once, like a man seeing a storm he can't turn. We do this my way, he said. No one goes alone. The depot lights flickered back to life for one long second. In that flash, I saw something on the far wall I hadn't seen before. A chalk line at ankle height, thin as string, running the length of the hallway and stopping at the baseboard behind Locker E. A still line, a still hand. And then the lights died again. And that was when we heard footsteps in the dark behind us. Fast, sure, close. And a voice not 5 feet away, low and calm. Tick-tock. The rain drowned the rest.